Hello, everyone, and welcome to the My Journey to Kona podcast series. My name is Reem Jishi. I'm the content director with QT2 Systems. Our featured athlete today is Dr. Elizabeth FitzSullivan, and we have with us also today her coach, Heather Jorris. Welcome, Elizabeth. Welcome, Heather. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I love your story. So I have a lot of questions for you, but I'm going to just start right off just at the beginning. What's your first exposure to triathlon?
So my first exposure was back in 2016. For anyone who knows IRONMAN Texas, the last however many years it's been, the bike course has been on the Hardy Toll Road, but in 2016, that was the first year they had changed it from being out in Montgomery. They shortened the course due to construction. It came right by the side of my house. And I hadn't heard about Ironman or triathlon or anything prior to that, but I got curious and started researching it and was just so amazed that these group of athletes were going to be competing in what sounded like a crazy long endurance endeavor. And so I gathered my family and some neighbors, and we set up some tents on the side of the house. And we sat out there from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. and cheered on every cyclist as they went by, you know, from the pro athletes who are so focused, they don't really, you know, acknowledge you, to the middle of the pack who are just so happy to see a smiling face and get some, you know, cheering, and, you know, the people towards the end who are just trying to avoid, you know, the cutoff time. And it was just so inspiring. And that night we went to dinner and Dave Matthews concert at the Mitchell Pavilion, which is right down on the waterway where the run course is. You know, the athletes do 3 loops on the run course right there. And, you know, it was so inspiring and amazing to me to see these athletes who were up and swimming before I woke up, and, you know, cycling 112 miles and still running. And I thought, you know, just that's crazy, amazing, inspiring, but nothing that I could ever do. And so that was my first exposure. At the time, I was just running, mainly for health and, you know, for fun. I had when I started in practice in 2013, started running, and my nurse and I decided we would run a half marathon together, and we did that a couple times. And then I eventually decided to journey into the full marathon. And so I signed up for a marathon in January of 2017. And in the meantime, I was talking to one of my CRNA friends in the operating room, and he said, you know, I'm training for Ironman right now. And I was just, you know, again, amazed by what he was doing. And I was starting to have some knee problems with all the running I was doing. And, you know, he suggested that I should try triathlon, that a lot of, you know, runners transition to triathlon because of knee problems. And so, you know, I got talking to my brother about it, who was an avid, you know, cyclist and runner. And he said, well, you know what, I'll do it with you. And so we signed up for CB&I. It's a great local sprint race. And, you know, I think we did our first ride together on my little hybrid Huffy bike that I would use to take the kids to the park. And I remember the first time we rode together, I was so nervous about riding on the roads that I refused to ride on the road. Instead, we rode on the bike path, which is funny to me, you know, now in retrospect. But, you know, I was just getting into it. That's how new I was to cycling. And, you know, I could swim, but I wasn't really a swimmer. But anyway, so we did that first race together, and we had so much, you know, fun doing the race and doing it together, that then we, you know, signed up for some other races after that.
All right. So you mentioned just a couple times in passing, you mentioned a nurse, you mentioned operating room. Can I just ask, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, so I'm a breast cancer surgeon at MD Anderson here in Houston, and I'm also the section chief for breast surgery at our Houston area location. So I have a lot of administrative leadership responsibilities, and you know, that has certainly affected my training and everything throughout all of this. I also have 3 preteen / teen, girls who are very active with, competitive swimming year round and, cross country, basketball, all of that. So it's a lot to balance as I've gotten into more and more triathlon, especially the longer distances. That has really become, a challenge. After that first race in CB&I, I then went on to do another sprint race, an Olympic race. My friend I mentioned, the CRNA, his wife was then training to do IRONMAN Texas in April of 2018. And he said, you should do some cycling with her. You're doing all of this training. And so I met up with her and started cycling on the weekends and, got into some longer distances, signed up for my first half in November of 2017. And, as we were training for that, Ashley was like, you're doing all of this training with me. You should just sign up to do IRONMAN Texas. And so I don't remember what the deal was that we had, but if she did something, I was going to sign up for it. And I guess she must have done it, because I did end up signing up to do the race in April of 2018. Up until that time, I was just kind of, doing my own training, running some, biking some, cycling, with her on the weekends, just kind of following my own plan. But when I signed up to do IRONMAN Texas in April of 2018, that was when I decided it was time to get a coach. And so I reached out to Heather, who was a swim coach for my girls on the swim team, and who I know has also been a very competitive triathlete, and also, coached people. And so she started coaching me in January of 2018 in preparation for that first Ironman race.
So you went from, in less than basically 2 years, looking at people going.
Less than a year.
Ironman
May 2017 to April of 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
But 2016, you said you saw the Ironman athletes who were like, wow, I cannot believe that people could possibly do that, to now being at the starting line for your first Ironman race. Did you question that decision through the training?
I don't know. I didn't really question it. I remember one time at one of the swim practices, I was talking with one of the swimmers who's done Ironman before, and he's like, wow, that's really ambitious. That's pretty soon, maybe too soon. And I was like, as long as I do the right training, and I don't know, I just had a very positive attitude about it, and felt that if I put the time and effort into it, that I could complete it. And that was my goal, was just to complete it. It wasn't to, compete per se. I just wanted to finish the race. And I remember, Ashley and I would literally do like everything that Heather gave me, because I didn't want there to be anything that prevented me from not finishing. I was so scared about not finishing the race that it was like every workout was done, maybe not at the best time because of my job and, career and everything. But, I tried to do everything that I could to be successful for that race, and actually ended up having a good race. So. Yeah.
So you did your first race, and going in, was it like, okay, I want to do these, or was it, I'm just doing this one, checking it off?
Yeah, this was definitely going to be a one and done, like I said, I didn't think that I would be able to do it in the first place. And it did take a lot of time and energy, and especially as I got into those longer bike rides, it was much more of a challenge with my schedule. And so I figured, just kind of one and done. But as soon as I finished, I had so much fun doing it that the next thing you know, I was talking my wife into doing it the following year in April of 2019. We had been doing some smaller races, as well. But I talked her into doing it in April of 2019. You know, she's not quite as fast as I am, and she was worried about finishing in the time. And so I told her I would pace her through the race. And I figured, well, you know, I'm going to be training for this. I might as well do another one, you know, right afterwards. And so I looked around at the available races, and Ironman Boulder was about 6 weeks later. And for some reason that sounded like a great idea to me. I don't know why, coming from Texas with the, you know, change in altitude and the elevation on the bike course, but for some reason it just seemed like a great idea to do that race. So that's what I signed up for.
All right. So now you started in May of 2017. By what, June of 2018, you've done 3 Ironmans.
Yes. Yeah.
June of 2019. June of
2019.
Yeah, 2019, you've done 3 Ironmans. That's okay.
Yeah.
So you clearly caught the bug. This was not a once and done thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely caught the bug. And, you know, throughout that time, I was doing a bunch of smaller races, you know, smaller local races as well. We even went out to San Diego one time to do an Olympic race out there. You know, we were really enjoying it as a family. My kids were doing, you know, triathlon races as well. And so it has become kind of a big, you know, part of our life. And going into Boulder, you know, I really, I wasn't thinking Kona, but I wanted to see how hard I could push myself. You know, because the first Ironman was, let's just see if I can finish it. The second one, like I said, I was just, you know, I was kind of helping my wife pace through it. So for Boulder, I really kind of wanted to push it. And I had a good swim. My bike was really strong, but I had gotten behind on hydration, which, you know, affected, you know, my run. But I did really, you know, still enjoy that race. And, you know, as I said, I went on to, you know, do a couple of other, you know, sprint, Olympic, half Ironman races as well.
Okay. So when did Kona become like a real desire for you? Something?
Well, I didn't think that, you know, with my career and the kids that, you know, it was really going to be something that I could accomplish. But, you know, I am very goal driven, and, you know, I just the historicness of competing in a race like that was just, it sounded amazing, something that I really would love to do. I started to have some, you know, luck in the races I was doing. I had some podium finishes when I did the half Ironman in Waco in October 2019. I earned a slot to the half Ironman World Championships. So I was starting to kind of get some confidence in that. But again, with the career limitations, I just didn't see that as an option. And so I was talking to Heather about it, you know, one day, and you know, I said, well, you know, I think that my only way of getting to Kona at some point is going to be through legacy, because there's just so many amazing athletes out there. I just don't see how I can commit the time and energy to compete at the level that they are. And she said, well, have you ever looked into the XC program? And I said, no. Well, what's that? And so I researched it. And it's a program that Ironman offers for executives. And it's kind of almost like a little bit of a white glove service in terms of they do a lot of the logistics for the race in organizing, you know, your bike transportation, the, you know, on-site convenient hotel, VIP access for your family, and escorting them around on the day of the race so they know where you are, what's going on, how you're doing. But you also are, there's a number of Kona slots that they offer for the Executive Challenge series. And you're competing against the people in your age group, but then there are slots given out to the Executive Challenge athletes depending on how you finish as a percentile of your age group. And there's a slot given for 49 and under and a slot given for 50 and over, both male and female. And then there's also a third option of getting a slot in terms of a personal best, whoever has the best personal best. And I really thought, going into the program, that was probably going to be my best opportunity to, get a Kona slot, was through getting a personal best option, because my PR was considered my boulder time, and I felt like I had, improved, quite a bit since then. And so, I went through the process, applied and interviewed, and was accepted into the program. And, looking at the races that they offered, because they aren't offered at all of the races, just some of them, and they rotate through. I thought Chattanooga was a good race. They actually do IRONMAN Texas, but I had planned to do IRONMAN Texas April 2020 with my brother. And so I chose Chattanooga as my XC race. So I started, focusing on that. And Chattanooga was a good choice for me with the downriver swim and everything. And so, continued training, March came around. I was kind of in the top of training, just getting ready to taper, and IRONMAN Texas was canceled. That was, it was upsetting for me, but more so for athletes like my brother and one of my other friends who were training to do it for their first time. I felt really bad for them. But I just kind of refocused my attention on, the Chattanooga race. Then, of course, August rolls around, Chattanooga is canceled. So they rescheduled me into the Arizona race. Dropped my bike off the week of IRONMAN Arizona, and that night got an email that IRONMAN Arizona was canceled. So I go back, pick up my bike. Well, there's a half Ironman in Galveston next weekend. I'll just do that because I'm already trained up, signed up for that 2 or 3 days before the race. That was canceled. And so it was this constant kind of buildup of training. But I ended up moving my XC race to be Ironman Quarter Lane, June of 2021. And I chose that race because it had an average race day temperature of 70 degrees, which was really appealing to me coming from Texas in the heat of the summer.
All right, so I want to hit Ironman Quarter Lane, but let me back you up a little. Tell me a little bit more about the application process for the XC program. What's involved? What are the criteria just to be eligible for it?
Well, so to be eligible for the XC program, you have to be an executive at a organization. And, they want to know how many people work there. It's been a while since I went through the process, so I can't remember exactly. But it's geared towards athletes like myself who, because of the job that they're in, the stress, the hours that we commit to our job, we don't have the time or energy to commit to training the way other athletes, might. And so it's not just available for anyone. You have to be at that executive level, like a CEO of a company, or, for me, yes, I'm a breast cancer surgeon, but I also, have leadership administrative responsibilities as the section chief for breast surgical oncology at the Houston area locations, which, is what qualified me for that program.
Okay.
And so you apply and you interview, and then, if you're accepted, then you select which race you want to compete at. And one of the things I really liked about the program was that, like when I did IRONMAN Texas, I knew so many people here. It was just such a great experience the whole time I was out there all day, everyone cheering us on. When I went and did IRONMAN Boulder, I didn't really know anyone else who was doing the race. And so that was not quite as fun. But when I did IRONMAN Quarter Lane, I didn't know anyone from Texas who was doing it. But then all week leading into the race, we have kind of receptions and get-togethers with the other XC athletes, so you get to know each other. And then on race day, you have a whole group of friends supporting each other, and that made for a really amazing experience for both me, and my family and the other families, because like my wife and kids were hanging out with the other wives and kids all day while we were competing. And so, it really allowed for great, friendships to develop.
Okay. That sounds great. So Coeur d'Alene, so you said one of the reasons you chose it was the 70-degree temperature, but if I recall that year, that wasn't the case.
That was not the case. We heard about 2 weeks or so before the race that it was not going to be 70, it was going to be over 100 degrees on race day. And of course, I had made the mistake of, oh, it's going to be 70 degrees. I'll do all my training, inside in the air condition and, do my runs early in the morning. And so though I was coming from Texas, I had not taken advantage of that kind of heat acclimation. So those last couple of weeks leading into the race, I did a couple of runs at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get some of that heat acclimation in. But going into the race, I was really worried about hydration and getting enough fluids, because that was an issue for me when I did the Boulder race. And so, I pushed the fluids a little bit too much and ended up throwing up at mile 35 on the bike. Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't stop. You regrouped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I regrouped, kind of reset expectations on the day. I mean, as everyone knows, in many of the races around that time of 2021, there were extra slots being handed out to XC. So I knew, that there was more opportunity for me to get a Kona slot. I had initially was hoping to get my slot through the XC program through that PR slot, which the heat I knew was going to affect that. But there were other slots that were being offered more than typical. And so I knew I just needed to have a decent race and, get to the finish line. And, so I just kind of regrouped, refocused my energy, and, took some Zofran, was able to finish the bike, get some nutrition in, and then I started the run and, had issues handling any sort of nutrition. Really, the only thing I could take was Gatorade Endurance. And but that was enough. I made it to the finish line and got my Kona slot. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So that was now, though, it's been over a year. So
yeah. Well, so that was another thing, I mean, when I earned that slot July of 2021, that was supposed to be for Kona 2021. Mm-hmm. 3 months later. And that would have been, kind of great time frame, because COVID did also cause a lot of changes in my job, in that, I used to be able to do surgery in the community hospitals closer. And now I have to drive over an hour to Houston to do the surgeries that I do. So that's really affected my ability to get some of the training done. It can take me an hour and a half each way. And that's something new since COVID, and also other work things have kind of added up. But, with the race kind of getting canceled and rescheduled and canceled and rescheduled, I've been in kind of this constant, training to try to get there. It feels like it's not really going to happen at this point. It's been almost drawn out so long.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen this year.
I hope so. I can't imagine if it doesn't.
Yeah. So so we're less than a month away. It's getting there. So does it make you nervous? Anything about it make you nervous?
I mean, the biggest thing that makes me nervous about the race itself is the swim. I have not done a non-wetsuit legal swim over 1,500 yards. So that's the part that kind of concerns me the most, and as well as the salt water, and if it's choppy and getting seasick, and then because that kind of sets up the whole day. I think that's what I'm most concerned about. And then second to that, would be just, not finishing, because of something like that, having nutrition issues. It would really be disheartening to put in all of this work and then not actually, finish.
Well, I've never talked to an athlete that carries Zofran with them. So that's like, I mean.
Well, there's an advantage to being a doctor.
I
In
know.
fact, this year I was doing IRONMAN Texas to, make up for it being canceled and rescheduled. And, Heather was out there cheering me on and some other athletes, and she came running up. I have an athlete who doesn't feel well. Do you have any Zofran? And I was like, sure, here you go. Because I was feeling great. I didn't need it. But
you got that, I mean, that's sort of the benefit from having gone through these races and having had nutritional issues, is that at least you learned from them and figure out. And so does Ironman do at Kona? I assume that they offer your family and something.
Yes. So when you qualify through the IRONMAN XC program, you also agree to compete in Kona as part of the XC program. And so, along with that, they do a lot of the organization for you, in that they have us set up with a hotel room at the Queen K. There's VIP access for the family and for many of the banquets and receptions and things that are going on. VIP check-in, things like that. There's also some other things that are kind of really cool. We get to have a breakfast and meet with the CEO of Ironman and some of the pros at the race and get to know them. And they take us out on a ride of the course to kind of preview the course and give, some tips and things like that. So there's many things throughout the week leading up that they organize. And then on race day, the biggest thing, as I said, especially where there's so much going on and most of these races are out of town, they help your family get around the race venue, know where you are, make sure that you see them. Or like an Ironman Quarter Lane, where one of our friends was having nutritional issues and got pulled from the course, they helped connect him with his family so that they knew what was going on and all of that.
That's nice, because definitely things can get pretty hectic out there in Kona. So having people out there just to help keep things under control and make your experience there. Support it. So what's exciting you most about racing at Kona?
I think for me, just being out there on such a historic course with amazing athletes from all over the world. I mean, everyone from the pros to the age group champions. And to me, actually being out there with the physically challenged athletes really means a lot to me. My sister was born physically challenged and we lost her when she was 14, but she had such an amazing enthusiasm for life that I bet if she was alive, she would be wanting to compete in something like this. So it always kind of touches a special place in my heart when I see those athletes out there, because I think how hard I feel like I'm working, and I can't imagine being physically challenged and, accomplishing that. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Definitely keeps things in perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Heather, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore.
Okay, let's see. I am here. So yeah, I'm not sure I've got my video on, but maybe as I need to talk, it'll come on.
You're dark, but I'll go ahead and just ask you questions anyway. We can.
Yeah, I've been listening in, and it's great to thank you for having this and interviewing Elizabeth. I mean, she's definitely a very special kind of athlete, and her story is pretty incredible. And with her, it's always been a family affair too. She got into it. Her girls were in swimming. I had her 3 girls in my swimming, and then I know what her schedule's like, being a surgeon, and especially being the surgeon in charge of a lot of other surgeons. And it's a very different kind of training that she can do than a lot of people that are going to Kona and that do Ironmans. I mean, she's got a very set schedule. I mean, I see her come into where we swim, and we swim at the same place, and she's in her scrubs, and she quickly goes and does her swim and then comes out. But at the same time, she meets her wife there to swim during lunch so that, they're together. I'll be leaving swim practice where her daughters are, and she's running around the parking lot. So, she does a really incredible job of making it happen. And one thing about her is she's pretty darn durable and resilient. And I'm always giving her more, you need to have a recovery weekend. And I feel fine. She can pop back the day after a race of some sort. And that's why when she says, oh, I used that race to do with my brother and then train for, I would never really have an athlete do that. I just don't know that that's the best idea. But with her, she can go out there and, do it with her wife slow, or do it with her brother, or, help somebody else along the course. And then 4 or 5 weeks later, do her race. And really recover pretty quick from it. So she's pretty amazing with everything that she does.
So you knew her before you started coaching her, and then, had a sense of what her work was like. How do you coach her differently given all the time commitments that she has?
I think there's just a lot of flexibility. I know, it's very important for her to spend time with her kids and her family, and they go on vacations, and sometimes we'll look at the 12 weeks out before an Ironman and say, okay, show me, put in there any vacation you've got. And I look at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, Elizabeth, we got 4 weeks of vacation in there, but it works. She's fine. We get this, she gets everything done that she needs to do. She always does what she's supposed to do. Not a lot of what I would say just kind of junk mileage. I mean, she gets the durability, and she's pretty strong. And like I said, she recovers pretty quick. She takes really good care of herself, so she doesn't get run down very easily. Elizabeth, I've noticed a lot of mention where you said I had nutritional problems. It's probably not that much different than some of us will have nutritional problems, and it might just completely seize our day. Elizabeth will step back, figure it out, take care of it, and continue going. And does the same thing with training, very, very smart about what she does with training and how she does it and where she does it. Her swimming, I know that you're nervous about the swim. I am not nervous for you for that swim at all. You will be more than fine. One of the things that she did was real smart was in the beginning, I said, I think you should get in the master's program, push yourself a little bit in the swim and kind of see what it is to be a swimmer. And she did that, and it, really saw some success with just getting stronger in the swim. But, I know that the ocean can be daunting for some people if you haven't been in the ocean a lot. So, her bike, she's pretty strong on the bike, but yeah, I'm excited to see her there, see how she does.
Yeah. So personally, you've competed there quite a bit. So what piece of wisdom do you get for someone going there for the first time?
Take in the experience, go in there with, just don't go in there with real lofty goals if you've never done it before, as I'm going to, get top percent in my age group or this, go out there to enjoy the experience and to be smiling at the end. And, to enjoy the time with your family and, just really kind of soak it all in. It's a fun week. There's a lot that goes on that whole week. And I think this year is going to be pretty darn neat where they have the 2 races. I know that some people weren't thrilled about it, but I think that's great. Elizabeth will definitely go in being prepared, and she'll have her whole family there. So I just think it's going to be just a special time and just to enjoy it. I mean, there's really nothing that she's going to do on race day that she hasn't done in training. So, just kind of take that in with you. Yeah. You'll be ready for the heat for sure. Coming from Texas here. Maybe not some of the hills, but you can handle hills because you're strong. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely putting my money on you. That's for sure.
Well, I'll make it to the finish line. I'm not sure how long it'll take me, but I'm pretty sure I'll get there.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out like all the things that you're doing. I'm like, do you have an extra like 4 hours in your day that most people don't have? Because it's pretty,
No, really, I mean, it's, you know, as Heather said, my family is really important to me. A lot of it is balancing my time to be there for them. Like this morning, cross country meet for my oldest daughter, and then so I'm doing my run in the afternoon. You know, it's managing the schedule around that. You know, my wife does an amazing job of getting the kids, you know, everywhere they need to be, and you know, supporting me in this. My mom, when she's in town, it takes a lot of, you know, help from everyone to kind of make sure everything, you know, gets done. But, you know, as Heather said, a lot of it is, you know, I'm running around the parking lot of the natatorium while their kids are swimming. That's, you know, yesterday, that's what I was doing at Sawmill, running loops, you know, around while they swam. Or, you know, occasionally at the hospital in between cases, I'm, you know, in the hospital gym on the treadmill. You know, I swim, you know, on my clinic days at lunchtime. It's, you know, you just figure out a way to make it all work somehow.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth does a really good job of, I call it invisible time. It's just time where nobody else needs you, you know, in your family or your job or anything. It's like maybe it's early in the morning, or maybe it's kind of when kids go to bed or at lunchtime, but she does a really good job using that invisible time and making the most of it, and you know, getting the most out of her workouts.
Yeah. I'm super excited for you. So just a few more weeks and you head off.
Yep, very, very excited about it. I mean, yeah, I do also want, you know, people to realize that, you know, there is more than one way to get to Kona. Because, you know, I mean, I think most of us think of the age group slots as, you know, being the only way to get there. But, you know, there are other ways, like through Legacy and XC. And, you know, if it's your dream to get there, then, you know, you still have to work hard and put the work in to get there, but there is more than one way, one opportunity to make it happen.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring out. And well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, Heather, for joining today. And we'll be watching you, tracking you in what, 4 weeks? Not even, you'll be done. 4 weeks.
Less than 4 weeks, I'll be done celebrating.
All right, have a good one. Thank you again.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Elaine.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you, Elizabeth. Bye.